In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at adding imagery to various pages within CRL.edu. And I've broken this down into a couple of different topics here. First of all, looking at a concept called adding a highlight image to a page, which is really just a very simple process. It's just a couple steps long that allows us to consistently add an image without having to worry about stylizing it and scaling it and everything. It's just a very simple process for single images, adding single images to a page. And then we'll also look at some more advanced imagery techniques which go a little bit above and beyond highlight images when the styling or various characteristics of a highlight image are simply not sufficient for some piece of content. So I'm actually just working on a normal CRL.edu test page here. I'm just using the body area to kind of outline some of the points I want to talk about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first add a highlight image to this page. I'm also, of course, logged in as a normal site editor with Power Edit permissions. So I see my edit links here. We're just going to toggle over into edit mode. We see here just the normal set of fields that we would see on a basic page when working with content. And the field that I'm looking for is this one that's titled Highlight Image, and it's usually towards the top of the page. And nearly every content type on the website has this field available. And the procedure for adding an image here is pretty straightforward. We're just looking for the button that says Choose File or Browse Computer, and when we click that, a browser pops up which allows us to look on our local computer for a file, an image file specifically. I have one here that's a picture of the Carbon and Carbide building in Chicago, and I'm just going to use that for my highlight image. So I select it, and then I have to click this upload button to attach it and officially upload it to the server. So now it's on the server, and I see a thumbnail version of it here, and I also have some text options that I can add for a title. I'm going to leave that blank for the moment, and we're just going to see what appears when I save my page. So you see here the highlight image has been automatically added to the upper right hand corner of the page. It's been scaled to fit within a nice width and height that proportionally works well with the rest of the page. It's got a border. Basically all the stylistic characteristics have been handled automatically, and this is the same even if I would have uploaded a very, very, very large version with a very high resolution of this image, or a very small version. The system automatically scales it and inserts it for me. It also adds some special effects here where if I click on the image, a light box pops up and I can see the content within at its full size if a larger size is available. What I want to do here is go back into edit mode, and let's go and edit that title box where we can add a caption. So here this box that says title also serves as a caption when it comes to highlight image, and there's a little note that dictates that here for highlight images. This is the caption. Why don't I just copy some text here that explains what this is, and then I'm going to save the page once again. So now I've just added a nicely formatted caption to the bottom of my page, which kind of fits within the border and the other styling that are part of this image. So this is just a really simple way to consistently add an image to our content without having to think very much about how do we want to stylize it and adjust it and insert it and where do we want to upload it to. It's just a very straightforward procedure. So next I just want to demonstrate the way the highlight image can sometimes be used outside of the page itself. And this really applies specifically to content types like news and events, where where the teaser for various articles is actually listed in an index page. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at some news articles here. So in the news section, on the main news page, we see here that the most recent news items are listed here, and their teasers are shown. Just a quick abstract is shown, and then in order to see the whole article, of course, you click through to see the full content on its own individual page. You also see in this list that there are some pieces of content that where the list item or the teaser item is accompanied by a small thumbnail, square thumbnail image. This image is actually the highlight image being repurposed for this listing context. So we'll take an example here of this particular news item, because this one's missing its highlight image and it's supposed to have one. So I'm going to go to that page, the full version of the page, edit it, and I see here that I'm working with a news page, right? So the field options are a little bit different than a normal page or a basic page, which is what I was looking at before. But nonetheless, here at the top, I do have my option to add a highlight image, and of course, there isn't one here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my image that I've already prepared. This is the one that is supposed to go with this article. So I choose it from my local computer, and then I upload it to the server. And there it is. It appears as a thumbnail. I also have some caption text that I want to add. I just have to copy and paste it. And save my changes. And so there we go. We see that just as before, when I look at the full version of the article, I see the highlight image appears in the upper right hand corner. It's automatically been scaled to fit within the right proportions, and the caption has been added. But let's now go back to the news list and see if anything has changed there. So we see here too that my highlight image has been used, this time as a square thumbnail, so with slightly different dimensions that are appropriate for the context of this news list. It's automatically been scaled to look just like the other thumbnail links that accompany these images, and I haven't had to do anything else. I haven't had to touch this news listing page separately. It's just automatically been updated for me. So you see that the highlight image is a pretty versatile piece of a versatile part of the content, which can be repurposed in a lot of different ways. So as we noted earlier, a vast majority of the time using highlight images within pages of content is probably sufficient for most types of content on CRL.edu. Typically, one nicely and consistently formatted image will do the job for most news and event articles and general pages on the site. But that said, there are certainly cases, special cases, where more than one image is required on a page, or images need to be formatted a special way, a more custom way, so that they better fit with the content on the page. And so we're getting into territory where we can't accomplish what we need to do with a highlight image alone. So we're going to take a look at some techniques that can accomplish these more advanced image manipulation tasks. A lot of times pages that have special image needs may go through systems, but that doesn't mean that all editors aren't empowered to do some more fancy things with images. And so that's what we want to run through here. Now I am on my test page here, and I'm just going to continue to edit it, and we're going to do a couple more interesting things here, add some additional images to it. I'm going to leave the highlight image here for now, and even before I add more imagery to the body content here, I'm just going to begin by adding some additional text so that we have some more content to work with and to frame up our images. So I have just some filler text ready to go here, which I'm going to insert so that we have a few paragraphs of text. And let's split that up nicely. And let's just take a look and see how things look at this point. So I still have my highlight image here, and obviously it stays in the same place, and then I just have more text, and all the text nicely wraps around it. Now what I'd like to do is to add another image down in these, within the space where these final paragraphs are. Perhaps I have some imagery that relates specifically to whatever topic's being discussed in this paragraph, and I'd like to place it near to this paragraph. Actually, I'll add a couple images down here as if they relate to content that's at the middle and the end of the article. So just go back over here into edit mode, and then back down to my body. Now here, of course, we don't see the highlight image displayed. That only gets formatted and positioned when you view the full version of the article, when you're not in edit mode, right? So we know that that's basically going to take up the space up here in the upper right hand corner. Now the place that I'm interested in adding an image is down here towards the middle of the document. So I'd like to place an image, let's just say right above this paragraph here. Now, the starting point with images is to always get your cursor where you want it to be, where you want the image to be inserted. Just like with links, or with file links, or any type of link actually, our starting point was to highlight the text first and foremost. With images, we don't have anything to highlight because we're inserting an entity, so we just need to get our cursor positioned where we're going to do our insertion. Once that's ready to go, then we go back up to the toolbar, and we're looking for a different button this time. This is called the image button. And we click on this, we get another dialog box that comes up, somewhat similar to the dialog box we saw working with links, except we have a bunch of special fields here that relate only to images. We still have our familiar URL field, which we had for links, and in this case it's asking us for a path to the image file that we're going to use. And instead of building a link with that path or with that URL, the visual editor here is going to actually insert the image itself. It's going to reference the file, but instead of linking to it, it's going to show the image, display it within the content. Now, of course, we probably don't know the path to our image, and our image may, just like with file links, our file that represents our image may very well not even be on the server yet. Well, we still have the Browse Server button and the file browser at our disposal for images, for working with image files, just as we did working with documents and attachments and those files. In this case, of course, previously we were working with the attachments part of the file browser, but now we're, of course, dealing with images. So we have an images folder that's available here, and inside are, of course, just like attachments, a number of subfolders which represent primarily different content types. So if I was working on a news article, I could open up my news folder, and then I have all the different image files that are currently being used beyond highlight images available to me. All right, so I could select an existing image or add a new one. In my case, of course, my test page is just a page, so it's not a special content type. So I'm going to open up the pages subfolder under images, and in here are quite a few different existing images, but I already know that the one that I want to use is not yet on the server, so I need to get it up there. The process is really the same as what we're familiar with from making file links. I just need to upload the file from my local computer. So in this case, this is the image I used for the highlight image. I want to find an image here of the carbon and carbide building that details the facade in the front entrance. So I'm going to choose that one. and upload it. So we see a couple notes here saying I was successful. There was also a quick note there that said that the image was resized slightly, and the reason I saw that message is because the image that I'm working with here, the original one on my desktop, on my computer, was very, very large. It was several thousand pixels wide. And the web server doesn't really have any reason to store an image that's several thousand pixels wide, because there's never any context in which an image that big has any relevance. So sometimes when you upload big images, they will be scaled down a little bit within the storage space on the server for that very reason, just for efficiency. Now, I think the maximum width is about 800 pixels and the maximum height is about 600 pixels. Now, that doesn't mean that those are the dimensions that you have to work with when you actually insert your image. It just means that those are the maximum dimensions that are allowed once an image is added to the actual server. So now my image is up there. I make sure it's selected, and I click the insert button, and this what we expected and what we saw with file links. The same thing happens here. The path to the file, in this case our JPEG image, gets inserted automatically into the URL box. So I'm just going to go ahead and save these settings. I'm not going to change anything yet. The save button is actually not appearing because it's below the visual space that we have available for this recording. So I'm just going to push enter. That's also going to save my options. So here we see the image was inserted, and I'm going to actually look at the official saved version of this so we can see what it looks like. And we see here it is. It does appear right between those two paragraphs, just as I wanted. But you know, it's a bit large. I mean, even at the scaled down version of about 800 pixels wide, it's still spilling off to the side. And I don't really have any reason to have this image appear so large here. In addition, I also like the way these highlight images are automatically kind of floating to the side of the content and allowing the text to kind of flow around them. I'd like to do the same thing with this image. So let's go and make some edits and change some of the formatting here. So back into edit mode, and I scroll down to my image. I can select it, and then I right click on it, which allows me to pull up the same image properties dialog so I can edit what's here. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the width and height. It's automatically putting it in at the maximum. At what's stored on the server is the maximum width and height. I think about 300 pixels wide is maybe appropriate. That should be about half of the width of the page, or the content area of the page, and you'll see that the height value is automatically adjusted so that the aspect ratio, the width versus height ratio of the image is maintained. I'm also going to add some padding around the image. H space and V space stand for horizontal space and vertical space, respectively, and that's just saying put about 5 pixels or however many number of pixels around between the image and any other content, so that way our text in our article doesn't run right up against the edge of the image. And then lastly, I have this alignment option here. And now this is where I specify how I want to position the image relative to the rest of the content. Before it wasn't set, so the image would just sit right in line with the rest of the text. But I said that I want to position it a little bit like that highlight image and have the text float around it or flow around it. So I'm going to go ahead and choose left aligned, and because I'd like it the text to float to the right of it or flow around the right of it, and save those changes. And here we can see it's starting to look pretty good. It's starting to look like my original intention. And just to be sure, I want to see this in the final format, not just inside the visual editor. So I have my highlight image to the right, and then my next image here to the left. So that looks pretty good. Let's just do one more image, and let's just put all the steps together in one. I'll upload an image and align it in one step. I'm going to put another image down here. Let's see, I'd like it to be related to this final paragraph. So I'm just going to put my cursor at the beginning of the paragraph, and I want the image to relate to that paragraph, so I'm just going to put it right with the paragraph, and I'm going to click my image button. This time I'm going straight to the browse server. I know I'm going to refresh my images directories here. I'm dealing with a page. My image does not yet exist on the server. I know that, so I'm going to upload it. And here I am browsing my local computer, and I have a nice tall portrait orientation image here, which I want to insert. First I'm going to upload it. There it is. I could even see a preview of it here in the space below. I make sure it's selected and I insert it. I'd like to make this one, since it's so tall and narrow, I'm going to scale it down to a little bit smaller width, 200 pixels wide. It's relative, the relative height for that is scaled down to 300 pixels. Give it some padding, and I aligned the image above it to the left, so let's put this one to the right so we get kind of a staggered effect. And there we go. In one step, I've inserted the image right with its paragraph. You'll see that since I've positioned it to the right, it's over on the right side of the screen instead of right where I put my cursor. But that's fine, because the alignment is still with the very beginning of the paragraph. And save these changes. Some of the specifics of working with right and left alignment of images takes a little bit of practice, but after a while you get used to it and you just realize that it's always relative to wherever your cursor is, and you usually want to start with your cursor as close to the beginning of a paragraph as possible. So there we go, that looks pretty good. I think this is a pretty good example of adding some additional images to a page. It's also worth noting that there are some places on the website where things get even more advanced than this. You might see pages where there's multiple images and each image has its own caption, that kind of thing. That gets a little bit above and beyond even the options that we're discussing here, but it is possible. It just takes a little more custom work. And those considerations should be pretty few and far between. With the highlight image and then this ability to custom insert and scale some images beyond that on the same page, most of the needs that could be encountered within the website should be met.